Hey, Lemon Ninja here, and wanted to, respond to your video, which it was an excellent video. I really liked it. It was well put together, and your language was very, personal. Um, you know, my story from moving away from Christianity is, a lot is very similar to yours. I grew up in the Midwest. I was raised as a evangelical Lutheran, the ELCA. So the Lutheran Church, and it's also a more it's more of a ritual movement sort of church religion than it is this high emotional personal relationship sort of thing. So our two churches are probably very similar, and as I grew up, similar to you, I just started seeing what other people thought Christians were, and it became difficult for me to label myself as Christian. I mean, there's the word sin is a very interesting word because there's only one other word that can be used to replace it. And you hear it a lot in, like real estate, but the word is inequity, unequal. So sin is truly, when you're treating someone else unequal. And when I started seeing, other members of my church, people of other religions, start to treat themselves as more important because that they were better people, because they had more piety, because they had this personal relationship to God, and they were, BFFs with Jesus, and I was not, and that made them a better person. And so they treated me as less than simply because I didn't have the same personal relationship they did. And when they started committing that inequity, when they started treating me and other people as less than, and that they themselves were better simply because they had this more fundamental religious, they went to church more often, they went through the movements more often, they knew more about the movements, they could recite text, and they could quote, from the Bible and stuff like that. I really disliked it when they started acting like they were better people, better than me and better than others because of that. I mean, in God's eyes, all people are equal. The Pope to some bum on the street, they are all his children. And when I saw Christians stop acting like that, I realized that I need to stop labeling myself as Christian, because Christians just seem to be very, very wrapped up in the who and the what and the when and the where, and they just completely forget the why. I mean, you need to accept that Jesus was the Son of God. It is a fact. You need to accept that he died and was resurrected. It was a fact. And if you don't accept these things, you can't be Christian. Why did he die? What did he say? Why did he say it? I mean, he was the Prince of Peace. If what he was saying is a good way to live your life, does it really matter if there's a reward at the end or there's a punishment if you don't? I mean, it might just be me, because there are certain levels of morality, and personally, my level of morality is that I will do something good because it is the good thing to do. I don't do it because I'm afraid of punishment. I don't do it because the law says so. I do it because I think it's good. Because I know that treating people as equals and being kind and peaceful and, loving is just a better way to live your life than, going around being all about yourself, being violent and pushing other people around to get what you want. I think that that's just a better way to live. And I don't need the fear of judgment and of hell in order to live that way. And I think that since Jesus spoke so much about hell, and he talked a lot about punishment, and he talked a lot about, Satan and those sort of things, is that he was really, getting into the fact that not a lot of people are able to do what's right simply because it's what's right. They need to have some sort of motivation. And fear and pain and fear of pain and retribution is a good motivation. A lot of people seriously, get into, I can't do this because I'll burn in hell, and they're really afraid of that. I mean, I don't need to be afraid to do what's right. So I find that, very interesting because, you know, when it came down to it and I started looking at it, I was actually living a more godly life than a lot of the Christians I knew, and I didn't need to fully accept 100% all of the myths and the fantasies and the supernatural aspects of Christianity. I didn't need this promise that we're going to be resurrected to follow what Jesus said, to look at the Ten Commandments and realize, hey, those are a good idea. Killing your neighbor is a bad idea, that sort of thing. And you just start moving away, and you start trying to figure out of a way that you can label yourself and still not be tied to their inequity, to their judgment, to their standards. And it is something that I'm seeing in a lot of people, and a lot of good people that are moving away from calling themselves Christians and are becoming atheists or agnostic. And it's because they simply don't think that the Christian community as a whole is acting very Christian, is acting, very godlike. I mean, when you look at racism, sexism, that sort of thing, that's not what Jesus would want. If you look at the core of his philosophy, like you said, a philosophy on life. And when you stop living that philosophy and you just simply wrap yourself in the religion and you believe and you have this personal relationship with God or Jesus, and then you go out and you do things that are not good, when you stand by and let bad things happen, and yet you still say that you're a better person because you have this relationship, because you have all this piety and they don't. It's when you think that going through the motions or having the emotional attachment makes you a better person, even though you are not acting like a better person. When you are in your own life not making better decisions and living the philosophical way that, that the Bible and other religious texts put forward, then that's the problem. It's when they start forgetting why we have this religion and why it works and why it's good, and they just do what they want and then go to church and ask for forgiveness about it, and then they just do what they want and go to church and pretend they're better than everybody else because they go to church more often. It's just it's an interesting phenomenon. I'm seeing it in a lot of young people, and a lot of good young people who are just trying to distance themselves from the extremism. And the way they're doing that is by removing themselves from the church. And I was one of them. So thank you for your story. It's good to hear, and hope to hear some more from you. This is Lemon Ninja.